Let's go JavaScripting! Hi everybody and welcome to another exciting edition of Boring JavaScript. I'm your host, the Virtuoid, aka Mike Smith, and today we're talking about the globalThis object. Now if you were around for our previous video on this, which was, just last week, you saw all the wonderful variations there could be on the this object. Well, this week's video is kind of like a sequel to that, in that we're going to be talking about the globalThis object, and it was created to solve a very particular type of problem when using JavaScript in different environments. So you want to see how it works? Let's get started. Well, first of all, let's take a look at the problem that globalThis solves. Here I have a simple little Node program that prints out the global scope of Node, and this is the base scope that everything works off of, the root object, if you want to call it that. So that there is no parent object to the global object that Node presents to you, and it is underneath the reserved word global. So if I was to run this program in Node, let's flip over to Node, and let's type in Node globalThis. Notice what happens is that I end up getting the global object. It has absolutely everything on it. You know, not much there. I mean, that's just the way it is. So that's the global object in Node. If we were now to flip over to our browser, let's put our browser up on the screen, and actually let's flip over to our code first. Let's take a look at the code browser. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to comment out these two lines here. This happens to be a the same code but within a module, and I'm calling that module, if we take the index.html, I'm calling the module here on line 28. So let's flip over to our browser, and let's do a Control F5, and crash! Uncaught reference error, global is not defined. Okay, so use global to get to the global root object for Node, but you can't do it on a browser. So what is it for a browser? So let's go over to our code here, and let's change this to window. See what happens there. Let's Control S it. Let's save it. Let's flip over to our browser. Let's Control F5. Aha! Hey, there we go. Now we've got the global object within a browser environment, which is the window object. So everything is really nice and hunky-dory, and everybody's happy, right? So let's go back over to Node. We don't want to say global anymore. We want to say window. Ah, that works perfectly good, right? We flip back over to Node. Let's clear our screen off. Let's go to Node globalThis, and nope, window is not defined. Okay, so we use global in Node to get to the root object. We use window in the browser to get to the root object. How about web workers? Well, let's check out web workers. Let's go over to our code. Okay, let's throw some code inside here to get our web worker up and running. We're opening up a new web worker called webworker.js, and we're going to post a message called do it. And what does it do? Well, it doesn't really do much of anything. It has an on message that just says, hey, global and web worker. So, all right, let's test the global first, because that's what happened inside Node. So let's save all that we've done here. Let's go over to our browser. Let's Control F5. Okay, uncaught reference error, global is not defined. Okay, so it definitely wasn't global. All right, well, if it's not global, it's probably window, right? So let's go over to our web worker, and let's type in window. Save that. Let's go over to our browser. Let's Control F5. Window is not defined. Well, what the heck could it be? Well, let's flip back over to our code. Why don't we try self? That sounds like a fun thing to try. Why not? Let's go back over to our browser. Let's do a Control F5. And it worked. Self worked within the web worker. Yay! So let's go back over to our code. Let's go into Node, and let's see if self works inside Node. Let's Control S that. Let's go over to node. Let's clear off the screen. Let's go to node global this and boom! Nope. Reference error, self is not defined. Okay, so let's recap here. To get to the global object in node, we've got to use global. To get to the root object in window, in browsers, we got to use the window variable. To get to the root object inside web workers, we've got to use the self variable. So we've got the right code. If we're going to write code that will work in all three environments, we're going to have to write specific code to be able to sniff out and figure out what environment we're in, right? Well, yeah, up to a couple years ago, that's what everybody had to do. But then all the great gurus and everything, the guru gods of JavaScript came up and said, this is crap. Let's figure out a way that we can get access to the global object no matter with using only one variable. And they came up with globalThis. So next, let's take a look at globalThis. So, like I said, you have the browser, you have Node, you have web workers. You may have 3 or 4 other different environments out there, either created now or created in the future, in which you may need to get access to that global object. And so you're going to have to write code to be able to say, well, if I'm here, or if I'm here, then access this, 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 or this. It could be a great big mess. So globalThis was created to circumvent that. All you have to do is access the variable globalThis, and no matter what environment you're in, it will give you what you need. So, for example, we are currently back to our Node program, and as we know within Node, global gives us the global data. Well, let's pop in globalThis. So this is what the globalThis object looks like. It's just globalThis, just like a global. And that's it. So if we were to flip over to, let's save it, if we were to flip over to Node and type in node globalThis, got a bunch of stuff came out. What came out? Well, first of all, we got the global object. You can see a bunch of stuff there. Global, Q microtask, clear immediate, blah, 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 blah. Then here's our globalThis object. Then we got, Q microtask, clear immediate, set intermediate, blah, 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 blah. As you can tell, it's the exact same thing. So you can access the node's root object either by using global or globalThis. All right, great. So how about a window environment or a browser environment? So let's go over to this, which is my module within Windows, and let's just paste and copy the exact same code that we pasted within Node. So now we're saying console.log window, console.log globalThis, and we still have our web worker here, so we should have a couple of different outputs there. So let's save this. Let's flip back over to our browser. Let's do a Control F5. Yep, there it is. Window within module is window. This is in the console.log down the bottom, and there it is. There's the globalThis, and it points to window. So globalThis in the Node environment pointed to the global variable, but within a browser environment, globalThis pointed to window. So what do you think is going to happen within the web worker environment? I guarantee you probably already know what's going on there. So let's go over to the web worker environment. This is where we did the console.log for self, because self gives us the root object. And let's just, again, just copy and paste globalThis. Let's save it. Let's flip back over to our browser. Control F5. And yeah, in the web worker, self is, oops, I accidentally clicked on the wrong thing there. Self is the dedicated worker global scope. globalThis is the dedicated worker global scope. Works like a champ. So now you do not have to sit there and say, well, if I'm in Node, I got to do this, or if I'm in browser, I got to do that. If I got to do web work, I got to do this, or if I'm in something else, I got to do something else. All you have to do is use the globalThis object right here to access the root object if you happen to need it for Node, for the browser, for a web worker, for anything else, and you're guaranteed to always get that root object. And that's all there is to the globalThis object. I hope you enjoyed our video. Hope I didn't bore you to death. Please make sure you click on the like button below and subscribe to this channel for more boring JavaScript videos. Also, you can see all of our videos at www.boringjavascript.com or see everything we have at www.thevirtualvoid.com. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you later.